It is time for another episode of Unfiltered. This one officially go down as episode number 316. Your scorecards. You can get us 24/7 at Unfiltered with Casey Stern on Instagram or on YouTube, and at Casey Stern on X or Twitter, whichever way you call it. My X, I guess, if you will, because we were once at broadcast partners. Well, I don't know. It just seemed like a lead-in. Segues are my thing. My guy Spilly, Ryan Spilborghs, back on board. Talk some baseball with me. Spilly, appreciate you, buddy. How are you?
I wouldn't be able to call us exes because we never broke up. We never.
Well,
broke
this
up.
is true. This is true. We're actually. This is Spilly just told me he needed space. So this is
it was long distance. It was longer distance than I wanted, but we still try to make it work.
It was long distance. Spilly needed space.
We're friends with really good benefits. That's like
that. We're just stalking each other's Facebook accounts. We're good. Appreciate you. We'll get into a bunch of baseball. As always, we're presented by our good friends Bet Online, the most trusted betting platform, number one source for everything football, every stat matchup, live odds and spreads. Think you know your stuff? You can get in a $200,000 mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every week. Chance to win weekly prizes and a share of $200K. Head over to the website today. Get in on the action. It's Bet Online. The game starts here. And I got to start here with 2 cyborgs, one in each league, because what Aaron Judge and Ohtani are doing, it's just, it's only for me as a lifer, but you as a lifer and a player, and the respect you have for how difficult this game actually is supposed to look and be. Let's start with Judge. What impresses you most about this monumental, historic season that he's put together so far?
It's a good question. I just ran into Jacob Stallings is former Gold Glove catcher.
Yep.
And he's with the Rockies right now, and the Rockies just took on the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, and Judge hit 50 and 51 over the weekend. And I was asking Jacob Stallings about Judge. I was like, how do you pitch to this guy? Okay, so I always like, first off, when we talk about it, when the talking heads try to describe how good a certain player is, like, we put into historical context. Hey, this season that he's throwing up where he has a chance to win a triple crown, he's going to be over 10 wins above replacement. You start getting into like, okay, well, there's been about, 15 seasons like this in the history of baseball. So like, it should alert you that this season, from a historical context, from the talking heads, from the gas bags, that, okay, they're right, this season means something. But then when you get down to the players between the lines and the guys that are actually competing against him, and you go, hey, Jacob, what do you got on Aaron Judge? And he goes, I've never seen anything like it. His hands are so big. The grip strength, you can see it. The strike zone discipline, the awareness, how he goes about his business, how he fills up the batter's box. He's in awe. He's like, I don't know what to call. I was like, well, what about the high fastball? There's one team in Major League Baseball for the last 7 years that has been Aaron Judge's kryptonite. It's been the Houston Astros. Every team that Aaron Judge has faced, you can look at his career lines. He has over an 800 OPS against everybody. Everybody crushes him. Against the Astros, it's the worst. And what do? They throw high heaters with that exploding fastball at the top of the strike zone, the only spot that Aaron Judge can't get. And I was asking Stallings, I was like, how tall do you have to set your glove to put a high fastball on a guy that's 6'8"? And he goes, yeah, I basically had to stand up. And Stallings is 6'5". So we're talking about such a unique profile, hitter profile, physical profile, that beyond the historical context of this season, this guy is a one of one. Case, this is a one of one. It's not just like, oh yeah, he's playing at Yankee Stadium. No, stop it. He's a one of one. If you took his road splits, he's the best hitter in the American League. If you yanked out Yankee Stadium, his homers are basically identical. You can stop it. This guy is a one of one. He's what I've been kind of joking around with, Case, is, okay, we've had the golden era of baseball. We've had the dead era of baseball. We've had the PED era. We're kind of in the StatCast era. But in the case of Judge, and I'm sure what we're going to talk about with Ohtani, we're dealing with 2 inner circle Hall of Famers.
Yes, without a doubt.
2 of the greatest that have ever played, and that's not hyperbole.
Correct.
I never saw Mickey Mantle. I never saw Babe Ruth. I never saw Hank Aaron, but I guarantee you what these two physical specimens are doing, physically, performance-wise, we're looking at two of the inner circle Hall of Famers, the Mount Rushmore Hall of Famers. You're looking at that right now, and I don't know what to call this era. I don't know what to call it.
No, I mean neither, and you're not wrong. And we'll talk about Ohtani because when we get there, I got to give you love because everybody knew how great Ohtani was, but you were the leader, like in the clubhouse, the leader on the fighting, the Twitter heads on just how great he is, and he's the greatest, most talented from a talent level, whatever his career is, most talented player we've ever seen. But I want to stick on Judge for a second because and I'm with you, like in my lifetime, right? I'm 45. I go to the first 10 years of Albert Pujols. When I think about right-handed hitters who had a hit tool that was special with power, he was on a different level for me than anyone I saw during that stretch. It was amazing for a guy who had that much pop, how great he was as a hitter. This is the best I've seen since that. Is that wrong to say? I mean, you look at what Aaron Judge is doing, and because of the size, Billy, everybody goes to the power and the mammoth home runs. But I think they don't realize that it's the hit tool and the mechanics and the way this guy swings that is really more special than the power. Because when you're 6'8" and that size, you're going to have power if you make contact with the ball.
Well, okay, let's put Albert Pujols into that context of that era. Okay, let's talk about that's the PED era, but regardless, look, Aaron Judge, Barry Bonds is the best hitter I've ever seen.
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
But,
yes, left
but Barry Bonds is tarnished by that era. Also, league batting average during that time frame was much higher. Right now, it's 244. The league is hitting 244. Aaron Judge is hitting 100 points higher than the league in a time frame where slug is important. He's still hitting for high batting average. So like the old school, like, hey, these guys aren't hitting for high batting average. I was like, BS. Aaron Judge is, if it wasn't for Bobby Witt, Aaron Judge is leading the American League in batting average. So stop. Well, what about on base percentage? His on base percentage is at the top. So like, what are you asking for? Like, what do you want? So if you compare eras, this is the hardest time frame to hit in the history of baseball. Fact. The numbers across the board: strikeout rate, velocity, pitch usage, league batting average, all these things. Fact. You can't argue it. Historically, fact. Hardest era we've ever had to hit. He's hitting 100 points higher than everybody. He's putting up historical seasons, top 15 in the history of baseball, in the hardest era to hit. Inner circle. That's what I'm saying.
In both of these cases, and we get to it with Ohtani, we have a situation where, and I think about using another sport, it's like the Golden State Warriors won 73 games or whatever it was, right? They don't win a championship, then that season not the same. That in New York, you can give Judge about 1 with 3 strikeouts in a playoff series before you're going to have WFAN radio and you at MLB Network Radio and everybody else sitting there about how well he doesn't get done in the clutch. There is a pressure that's going to be on him that is probably unfair because their pitching probably going to be more determinant in terms of what they end up doing long-term in this October. But what about the pressure that's going to be on them? We'll talk about Ohtani, same thing, right, with the Dodgers. But what about the pressure on both of these guys for their teams and what we're expecting now coming into an October for New York and for LA?
The power for Judge is real. Power for the Yankees, to win a World Series, first one since 2009, is real. You only have Soto guaranteed for this one season. He's been remarkable. By the way, Stephen A. Smith. Terrific. Juan Soto's hitting second. Judge is hitting third. Donkey used to be really good at Stephen A. used to be really good at baseball. He's lost a lot.
It's been a while. He's lost
a lot of zip on his fastball.
Correct.
But I think when you picture, like, for example, if I'm pitching to Aaron Judge in the postseason, he's not beating me. I'll walk him. Right. I don't care. I rather it's going to be Giancarlo. It's going to be anybody else but Judge. I mean, like, and if you hit him third, great, because there's going to be there's less at bats. We know this. There's less at bats for 3-hole hitters, especially if you're facing good pitching. So you might see it might come down to the postseason that's going to weigh on is not Aaron Judge. It's going to be on Juan Soto. Soto's going to have all the pressure because he's going to be hitting right in front of him. with 2 outs. So is he going to?
This is what happens when you don't do live things. You can go ahead and mix and match. So we're talking about the Yankees and talking about Judge and some of the pressure that he is going to be under, and he's not alone because Ohtani is going to be in the same situation, and the Dodgers in general, which I want to get into. But I got to ask you this about Ohtani because I meant what I said. You were numero uno yelling at anybody, and I was included sitting there. I remember going through the Judge Ohtani MVP race. This is the irony of this, right? Going back a couple of years ago. We've never seen anything like this clearly. It's not hyperbole to say he's the most talented player we've ever seen. How do you try and put into words things that we have never seen to this level? Because I feel like there's really no way to explain it. I really akin it honestly to watching Michael Jordan when we used to have the Come Fly With Me videos, like when we were kids, and you would watch him and it was like he didn't have to be in Space Jam for you to think he was like some alien because it just was different than anything we've ever seen. Are we talking that category now when we talk about Ohtani, all time in sports, forget baseball in this country?
Oof. The unfortunate part is, like, if Ohtani was in the NFL right now playing 2 ways, if he was a quarterback and a linebacker, it would be the biggest thing ever, right? He would be a quarterback and a linebacker. That's what Ohtani is for Major League Baseball. He's a quarterback and a linebacker. He's the best quarterback and the best linebacker in the sport. And he's playing 2-way. The fact that this year, what's funny to me about this season specifically is he's been a DH, right? Major League Baseball has never had a DH as an MVP. Never, ever, ever, which I've always thought was stupid because how can you have a closer win an MVP and you can't have you can't have a DH? I was like, come on, man. Same thing. So since we've had closers won MVPs before, you can have a DH win MVP before. And this year it's warranted. He actually deserves it. However metric you look at it, he's the fastest ever to 40-40 as a DH. He's going to get to 50-50, which has never been done before in the history of baseball. Nobody's ever gone 50-50. Ohtani's going to do it. And, like, I know a bunch of Angels fans and Dodgers fans, they're, like, butting heads because Dodgers fans are like, yeah, look at it. He's getting better. I was like, no, he's not. He's actually not getting better. He's not getting better. He's just not pitching.
Yeah, correct.
He's just not pitching.
That's correct.
He's just focused on hitting.
That's correct.
He could have been doing this if he was a hitter the whole time.
But he's also not fielding. He's also not fielding.
Well, and that's why the stolen base matters here. Because if he wasn't stealing bases, he's Marcell Ozuna. If he wasn't stealing bases, he's Marcell Ozuna. Because he's stealing bases and he has 42, think about how a stolen base changes defense. A stolen base moves up 90 feet. A stolen base allows you to score a run on a base hit.
Facts.
There's a value of stolen base, which goes back to even like when you talk about Ricky Henderson, another like person that maybe you should relook and think about how great Ricky Henderson was because he stole bases, and that stolen base record will never be broken. I mean, like we'll be
forget it. Are you kidding?
A million years in the future, and there's baseball. Ricky Henderson's record will still be there. It'll never go away.
If you're sitting there and look, I'm as big a Met guy as anybody. I was saying this yesterday to Duke. I had our guy Jim Duquette on my Mets pod, and I was saying that if Lindor or anybody wins second in MVP, they should almost give a trophy because it's the MVP for humans because it's like Ohtani's in a different boat. But as well as I do, the shortstop position, what it means on the field, the difficulty. They're 4 out now. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. But what do you say to the people who are either because I'm sure players feel this way too, Spilly. I don't think it's just people who want to be antagonists to Ohtani. I'm sure there are players that are sitting there that are thinking, 20, 30 years like, oh, well, DH, when there wasn't a DH in the National League, shouldn't win MVP. What about the taxing element of playing a position like shortstop all season and putting up MVP numbers versus what Ohtani is doing? Should that even be a discussion we have, or he's so off the charts it just doesn't even matter?
No, I think it's a fair discussion to have. I do. I think because how do you weigh defense? And how do you weigh a premium position? How do you talk about an infield defense when your best player in the infield is a shortstop and second best should be the first baseman, right? So and you're playing both sides of the baseball, which is really important. I mean, more and more players now, when you hear about it, stress how important playing defense is. You're on your feet longer. A DH is not. So I think there's a legitimate argument for a DH should not win an MVP over a position player that's playing both sides of the baseball, especially a premium position player. And if that team makes the postseason, you have that additional argument. Well, listen, if we didn't have Francisco Lindor playing shortstop, we don't get to the postseason. Those are all valid. And those are all ones that I would, if I'm on the other side of it, and if I had a Mets bias, I would be arguing this.
Sure.
I don't have a bias.
Yeah.
I don't have a bias towards Ohtani or to Lindor. I don't. I'm just telling you that.
No, I know you don't. I know.
When you see a player that, no matter what the defensive value you put, him stepping up to the plate in the first inning changes the game automatically. The second Ohtani walks up to the plate, the game's already changed. It could be a leadoff homer. It could be a walk. He steals second. Boom. The game's already been changed. He has that much impact on the game by just being a DH that we've never seen that before, only because of stolen base. The stolen base element is now this value that is so hard to quantify, especially when you're quantifying it against a non-position player, a non-defender. And Lindor's stealing bases too, but he's not stealing them at the rate of Ohtani, and he's not hitting homers at the rate of Ohtani, and he's not hitting for average at the rate of Ohtani. So you would have to, Lindor's defense would have to be so off the charts, like making plays and robbing homers that, I mean, which he's not. He's been really good. But there's been better shortstops. He won't even win a Gold Glove at short this year. It'll probably be Ezekiel Tovar. It might be Gerardo Perdomo. It might be Mason Wynn. Lindor might not even be a finalist for a Gold Glove at shortstop, even though he's had a really good season. But Ohtani, as a leadoff hitter, there's not a better leadoff hitter in the sport. There's nobody hitting for average, homers, and stolen bases other than Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt. So it's just it really is a hard measurement, and I'm with you. Like it's not fair. We've said this since Ohtani came to the big leagues. It really isn't fair. It isn't fair. This guy is not fair, especially when he pitches, because there's nobody that can do it. So he just proved to you again he's such a remarkable athlete, such a remarkable baseball player, that rather than talk crap about it and be like complaining about it, just go like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I've never seen anything like it. You're right. And you probably never will see anything like it.
Quickly on the back end, and I'll let you run. Dodgers, obviously, and you see them all the time. The rhetoric is, well, 3 games and out last year, and they haven't done enough. I don't think people give enough credit to what Doc and his staff had to do. They've had a lot of injuries, even with Ohtani, right? And from Betts and Yamamoto and all the pitching and Muncy and on down the line, they've had a lot of issues during the year and still are there, even though they're being chased. How much pressure should be on them? Because you've got the Phillies there. You've got other teams that certainly can make a run in the National League. They're not the heavy favorite they've been in years past. What about the Dodgers here going into October?
I mean, this will probably be the year they end up winning it. I mean, and the craziest thing, here's the craziest, here's my hot take. The Dodgers might win a World Series this year, but not win the division. I see the Padres as winning the division. The Padres are going to catch them. And then it'll probably be the Dodgers going through the wild card and win the damn World Series. They're good enough to do it. I think the problem that you're going to have, and we love Doc, right? We love Dave Roberts.
Oh, yeah, of course.
This team has to win a World Series, or I don't think Dave is back. And that's like the dumbest thing in the world.
Which is not fair. It's not fair.
It's not fair.
And it doesn't make sense. It means you're not watching the team, because even last year, the amount of pitching injuries they had, they shouldn't have won 100+ games and even been where they were. But people don't look at that because it's LA and now Ohtani. But these are things that, we'll see how it all plays out. I appreciate you. I love the time. I know you're busy. You got a million things going on. Is that a Denver Nuggets hat you got on?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay.
Got to rep D-Town.
Right. I like that.
D-Town's Detroit. Got to represent the 5280, the 303.
I always love catching up with you, bud. I appreciate you. Thank you for doing the.
All right, buddy. See you guys.
You can catch us next time on Unfiltered.